Hi there. This is Tempera. Tempera is a new granular synth created by the same two brilliant minds that brought us the vector synth, and it is very different to any other synth that I've ever played. Now, perhaps the greatest and not most obvious difference with my other gear is that this is actually a prototype. This is the first time I've ever had access to a synth in such an early stage of development. And I've been really blown away by the dedication and hard work that the developers have put into this. Sometimes even sending me firmware updates twice in the same day. It's really been fascinating to see it develop and grow from just an idea into a fully fleshed instrument. Though I have been sent this prototype to test and eventually review, I'm not being paid at all for any of this, and the manufacturers don't have any say at all in the contents of this video or my opinions. What I also think is important to point out is that Tempera, as I said, is still very much in development and many of its features are still being implemented. So, just to be clear, this is not a final review, rather a preview of where it is right now. So let's start at the very beginning with a quick overview of what granular synthesis is and how the Tempera is laid out. If you're not very familiar with granular synthesis, it's pretty much an advanced form of sampling. The main gist of it is you have an audio sample which is diced up into slices called grains, which are usually somewhere between 1 millisecond to 100 milliseconds long. These grains can be played in a variety of different orders, as well as warped and mangled, with things like time stretching, pitch shifting, and other audio effects. The results of all this are some of the most interesting soundscapes you might find in the synth world, and there has been a notable increase in the number of machines that use this technique in the last couple of years. In Tempera, you have 8 columns or tracks where you can vertically lay down your audio samples. In this 8x8 touch grid, you can scan through the audio sample by sliding your finger up and down. The sample names will appear on the corresponding LED screens above the columns. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, please remember to click that like button and also leave me a comment down below telling me what you'd like to see in the Tempera and what features would be cool for it to have. Who knows, maybe the developers might just make it happen. As I said earlier, granular synthesis is not just about slicing the samples, it's also about the way you reorder and play the grains, and these are represented by the cells that light up on the grid. In Tempera, you can customize this behavior by setting up your 4 emitters. To trigger a sound on Tempera, you must first set an emitter on the grid and then play a note on a keyboard, be it either an external device or on Tempera's internal grid. As long as a note or a chord is held, an emitter can be dragged along the grid with wild results as it picks up different bits and pieces of sounds. You can also fix these emitters to a number of cells on the grid without having to set your finger on them, but the fun really starts when you start moving around in an awesome display of color and sound. All 4 of the emitters are customizable and can be played simultaneously, though at least for now, you can only manually control one at a time with the other 3 remaining fixed. The options that are already available for the emitter behavior are quite compelling as it is, and include things such as grain size, grain density, fade in and fade out of the emitters, as well as various assignable LFOs with different wave shapes. By using these LFOs, you can have your emitters continuously and smoothly glide around the grid, either on the X-axis or the Y-axis, or just randomly pop up here and there for more percussive or rhythmic patches. The speed of the behaviors is also customizable and can be quantized. As far as voicing goes, though it's polyphonic, it's a bit more complicated than that. The short version is that it has 16 voices. However, you can theoretically have all 64 cells on the grid lit up and playing at the same time, though I'm not really sure what real use case scenario you would need or even want that. The next two menus give you envelope and effects options. Now the envelope options refer to your voicings, which are different from the emitter behaviors. Now as for the effects section, it's still limited to a reverb and a filter section. Now the definite standout here is the reverb, which sounds huge and lush if you wanted to, and I think that it fits the sound design very well. The Tempera really is shaping up to be a film scorer's dream. Though the roster of effects is rather slim right now, I'm told by the developers that more are on the way. And if you're at all familiar with the Vector Synth, you know that these guys know what they're talking about when it comes to effects. So I'm pretty excited to see, hopefully, the Vector delay and maybe even the chorus make its way into this box sometime soon. Since the basis of granular synthesis depends on having audiophile libraries, you'll be happy to know that it doesn't have a fixed storage, but rather it accepts a micro SD card. You'll also be able to sample directly into Tempera and set start and end points for your samples, which I am told will be stereo in the final version. This prototype only has mono sampling for now, so I've been importing my pre-cooked samples through the micro SD card. Now this last little button is pretty funny because it currently doesn't do anything, which I find weirdly amusing as it serves as a reminder that this is very much an unfinished product still. Though the Tempera is definitely shaping up to be a very interesting instrument, it still does have a long ways to go in what firmware is concerned. So I will be making a final review once it's out in the wild and we have a definitive version of it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful or at least entertaining. I hope you have a great week. See you next time.